my name is Jeanette, and I want to thank you for joining me on the channel Jane Reads. So today I'm going to share my quick thoughts of all the books I read in the month of November. But first, I'm going to go through what prompts I got when I played my November TBR game, and what books I picked for those prompts, and whether or not I actually read those books. I have not done this before. When I've played my TBR game for the next month, I never talk about what books or what prompts and books I got in the previous game, because I'm usually still reading them, because I film my TBR games about just after halfway point, like around the 20th of the month, and they come out on the 30th, so 10 days, give or take, before the month is over. So most likely I will still finish books. So that's why I've never included them. So I thought, well, let's just do a quick recap at the beginning of the wrap-up video, and then go into my actual thoughts on the books. Okay, so my first prompt was, well, when I played my November TBR game, I had got 3 prompts. I picked 3 books. But then on my 4th roll, I landed on the lose spot. My lose card was my TBR is voided. I had to start the game all over again. So then those first three didn't matter. So then 5 is where my number 1 book actually is. So my newest on TBR, and I picked Cornered, which was a novella collection by Lynette Eason, Lynn H. Blackburn, and Natalie Walters, and yes, I read it. Okay, then I landed on the score spot, so I had a free pick, and I put in The Artful Match by Jennifer Delamere, and yes, I read it. Then roll number 7 was my own reading challenge for the monthly prompt, which meant I needed to read a Christie Award finalist, and I picked The Lost Boys of Barlow Theatre by Jaime Wright, and yes, I read it. Okay, then the next roll gave me the or of in the title, and I picked He Should Have Told the Bees by Amanda Cox, and yes, I have read it. Okay, then I landed on the lose spot again, and this card told me to read a John Grisham book. I had picked The Firm. However, I couldn't get The Firm on audio. My hold just never came in, so I ended up going with The Street Lawyer. I just replaced it with another John Grisham book. So a little bit of a cheat because I didn't use the book that I had picked, but I do have The Firm in physical, but I really wanted audio, and I was able to audio and read this physically as well. Okay, then next roll gave me a NetGalley book, and so I picked Cloaked in Beauty by Karen Witemeyer, and I did read this one. However, I didn't finish it till December 1st, but I'm going to include it in this wrap-up because I finished it December 1st. Okay, then the next one was Number in the Title, and I picked We Three Kings, which is a novella collection by Caudill, Cara Putman, and Angela Ruth Strong. And yes, I read it. Okay, then the last book I got was for the end spot, which was a book on my TBR bingo board, and the board chose A Quilt for Christmas by Melody Carlson, and I have not read it. I just started it tonight, which is December 2nd when I'm filming this. So yeah, but overall, I did complete 10 books throughout the month. So let's talk about those 10 books. Okay, so I've got Dreaming in Black and White by Laura Jensen Walker. This is book 1 of the Phoebe Grant Mysteries. No, just a Phoebe Grant novel. It's a women's fiction. Basically, we're following a young adult who has left her tiny little town, moved to Cleveland, Ohio, big city. She has a job at a newspaper. Yes. And she is attending a church and in a youth singles group. and everybody seems to be pairing up, and she just wants a guy. And she goes on a bunch of blind dates or first dates with different people, and not the greatest experience. Something happens, she ends up back in her hometown, not where she wants to be, and things just kind of grow from there. So we're just following her life adventures. There are some really funny moments, kind of the situations that Phoebe ends up in just made me laugh at times. This is definitely a young adult novel, but it was entertaining. And this was my second time reading it. I don't think I enjoyed it as much as I did the first time around, but yes, I would recommend it, and I gave it 4 stars. Double Minds by Terri Blackstock. This is a mystery suspense. We are following a songwriter, Parker James, had to think of her name, and she is also a receptionist at night at a music studio, and a shooting happens and somebody gets killed that was sitting at her desk. Was the shooter aiming for her, or was the other person targeted? And so we're just following kind of her trying to figure out what's going on, working with the police. And then there's also a side storyline with her songwriting business and her best friend. And she writes Christian music. Her best friend is asking her to kind of change some of the lyrics to get into the secular industry more. And she kind of battles about that. I really enjoyed this. The kind of the convictions that Parker had and the way she battled with what she was being asked, I was hooked. And then with the mystery of the murder that happened, who was the intended target? And if it's Parker, why is somebody after her? Or if it wasn't, what happened on the other end? I loved this book. I was hooked and did not want to put it down. So I gave it 5 stars. Okay, then I read The Lost Boys of Barlow Theatre by Jaime Jo Wright, and I vlogged my experience with this book, so I will just link the vlog below. I'm just going to say I'm the unpopular opinion. I did not really enjoy this book. It started out rough for me. Then I started really kind of connecting with the historical timeline, especially. I did not mind the present day characters, but I really liked the historical. Then as we got closer to the end, something happened in the present day, and I was not impressed. And yeah, this was a 3-star read for me. Okay, then I read He Should Have Told the Bees by Amanda Cox. This one is also included in that vlog with the other book, so more thoughts in there for this one. And we are following Beckett Walsh, who has very recently lost her father. The book opens with her having to attend his funeral, so it's very recent. And so when they're reading the will, her father left half the farm to somebody else, as well as Beckett. But Beckett doesn't know who this person is, and this other person doesn't know why they were left the portion of the farm as well. So then the two have to work together to try to figure out what's the connection, why did her father decide this, and what will they decide to do? Because their opinions about what to do are very different. Beckett wants to hold on to the farm. The other person wants to sell. What is going to happen? I really liked Beckett, and I felt for her right from the beginning. Like just the situation she was going through. And then she gets to know this young girl, like she's probably 7, 8 maybe, I could be wrong. Fairly young anyways. And the girl just added a little bit of entertainment to the story and kind of some lightness to what could be heavy. And then there is a male main character, and they end up becoming friends. Then on the other side, there is also a possible relationship blooming that I was also rooting for. Like, I love that there was 2 separate romances in this that I really wanted to root for. So I gave this book 4 stars. Then I moved on to We Three Kings, which is 3 novellas. And the first novella is also part of that Christie vlog that I did, because I only got to the first novella during that vlog. And so the first one is Crystal Caudill, and this is actually the one that won the Christie Award for the short story. And I liked it, but I didn't love it. This is not three generations. It's three different timelines of families from the same. But there's like the main generation in the historical timeline. Then the next one goes with like the first couple is the grandparents. And then the last one is great grandparents or the first something. It's like, so it's three generations, but skipping a generation in between. I don't know how else to explain that. So in the first one, we are traveling on ship from New York to Germany, and the couple is trying to figure out whether their lives are taking them in two different directions or if God wants them apart, because one is American and one is going to Germany to live, and is the other one going to stay in Germany or return back to America. I loved that this couple like talked it through and also joined together in prayer to seek guidance from God about which direction their life should take them. So then the second one is a few generations later, and we are following a male and a female character who are working for the Monuments Men to recover art after World War II. I struggled with this story. I just did not connect with it or the characters and really understanding what was going on. Then the third one, we are in the present day timeline, and we are following a pregnant single lady who is an event planner, and she meets this guy through that event planning business. Like, she planned an event for him, and he is attracted to her but didn't know she was pregnant. And the way that the two interacted and like kind of the situation that has ended up with her being pregnant, I really was cheering for this relationship. Story number 3 was definitely my favorite of this collection. And so I gave this book 3 stars. As I said, book 1 or novella number 1 was okay. I didn't really enjoy novella number 2, and I loved novella number 3. So, yeah. Okay, then I finished The Street Lawyer by John Grisham. So we are following Michael Brock, who is a lawyer at a big law firm in Washington, D.C. And as he's arriving at work one morning, they end up in a hostage situation. Him and 8 other lawyers from their firm end up in this room with this person holding them hostage. The situation unfolds. And so at the very beginning, it's like action-packed and like what is going to happen and why. What's the motive of this person? And this experience changes Michael's outlook on life and so he's working at this big law firm, kind of working towards partner. This experience happens and it starts asking questions, and he ends up working for the homeless on the street, so hence the name of the book. And I really enjoyed it for kind of watching Michael kind of change and figure out the point of life, and was he working for money or should he have a bigger purpose? I really enjoyed that, but there was parts of it that I just didn't really care for, and the ending ruined the book for me again. I like the way it ended for Michael or the case itself, but just there was an insertion of a scene that just didn't need to be there, and it was just like, why? Like, everything was fine until that moment. So yeah, I gave it 3 stars. Okay, then I read the novella collection Cornered by Lynette Eason, Lynn H. Blackburn, and Natalie Walters. I had an advanced reader copy of this through NetGalley, so thank you. I love Lynette Eason and Lynn H. Blackburn. I've read one other novella by Natalie Walters, and I want to read more by her. So in these, so as I said, it's 3 novellas. They do connect in a way with their series, current series that the 3 authors are writing individually. And so Lynette Eason's takes place in Lake City, somewhere. I can't think of what state Lake City is in, but it's where her current series is happening. And so we meet Stephanie Cross, who is an accountant and the brother of one of the characters we met in one of the other books of the series. And I was really hooked on this story because it was like, what is going on? Because somebody gets killed right at the very beginning and Stephanie gets dragged in, and who can you trust? I loved it. And the romance was one I wanted to cheer for. Then we have story number 2, which takes place in Gossamer Falls, which is part of Lynn H. Blackburn's setting currently for her current series. And I have not read any books. Well, she only has one book out other than this novella, but I haven't read that book. So I was not familiar with any of these characters. I had heard that the Gossamer Falls series follows a large number of characters and family members. And this novella was like, yeah, that's for sure. There were just so many characters, and were they cousins? Were they second cousins? Were they siblings? Were they, like, keeping track of how everybody was related to everybody was difficult. If I had read book 1 of the series and was familiar with some of these people, maybe it would have been easier. I don't know. But either way, I still really enjoyed this series. So I probably gave, or this novella, so I probably gave this one 4 stars, whereas Lynette Eason's is a 5-star for me. And so number 3 is the Natalie Walters one, which I haven't read anything by Natalie Walters where these characters might have showed up before. I've not read any full-length books by Natalie. I've only read a novella prior to this. And so I wasn't familiar with the characters, and I didn't know if I should be. But I really liked the friendship between the characters. But I just didn't connect with the female character as much as I'd wanted to connect with her. I really liked the male character. And so I enjoyed the story and figuring out what was going on. Kind of the twist surprised me a little bit. I did not see it coming at all. That shocked me completely. And so I really do want to read more by her. And I do have more on my shelf. So I need to. So yes, I gave this book 4 stars overall. Okay, then I finished Adorning the Dark by Andrew Peterson. I read this as a group read with Krista from Books and Jams and a bunch of other ladies. And this book was not for me. This is definitely more memoir than I really thought it was going to be. And so it's Andrew Peterson, who is a musician and also an author. He's written the Wing Feather Saga, I think is what it's called. Never read it. I don't know any of his music. And what I can say after reading this book is he absolutely loved Rich Mullins. And like, could he say his name anymore throughout this book? Like, he talked about him so much, and he never even met him. Like, he adored him, I guess. And there was times that I was really invested in the stories, and other times it was like, I just didn't care. I mean, he is a musician, talking about life in Nashville and songwriting, and not a passion of mine at all. I'm not a music person. I don't want to be a writer. Not a passion. So this just was not for me. Okay, so then I finished The Artful Match by Jennifer Delamere. This is book number 3 in the London Beginning series, so I finished the series. And this one follows Cara, who is the youngest sister of the 3 sisters that we've been following in this series. We have seen Cara in the previous 2 books, but not very much. They don't live in the same city, and so she's shown up very briefly. This time, we really get to know her and follow her. What I really enjoyed about the beginning of this book is book 2 ended and I did not like the ending. It just left me hanging and I didn't like it. This book immediately picks up from where book 2, so we get answers right away. I was very happy about that. And so then we follow Cara, who has recently lost her position as a governess, and now she is in the city and wants to be a painter or an artist. And she runs into some people and kind of gets to know them, and things just kind of build from there. She builds a friendship with a lord who has a lot of money, and she's worked as a governess before, so a servant. They are not on equal footing at all. But she is able to befriend him through other things. He kind of doesn't see her as below his position and sees her character. And just following the relationship develop and kind of secrets come out, I was really rooting for Cara. And then there's another storyline going on that with the sisters that I was really rooting for. And I really enjoyed this story. There is a certain character that I did not trust at the beginning. And it was like, oh, don't trust them. Like, please don't. But it turned out to be okay in the end. So, yes, I gave this book 4 stars. I really enjoyed it, and I'm happy to have finished the series. Okay, then I listened to Heart of Clay by Shanna Hatfield. This is book number 1 of the Women of Tennessee series, and this was a reread for me. I had marked it 5 stars in 2020, but I didn't write anything like what my thoughts were. Why did I enjoy it so much? So that is why I reread it, to kind of refresh and what was my opinion now, 4 years later. And I still really enjoyed it. This one, we are following a married couple who will be married 13 years, and life is not as good as it was when they first got married. They've gone through challenges and attitudes have shifted a little bit, but what has caused the change in their interactions? And so we're getting to know them now. We also get flashbacks to when they were dating and when they fell in love and what led to their wedding. And so I really enjoyed getting to know this couple. The female, Callan, was a little bit harder to kind of connect with. She kept some secrets from her husband that kind of really build some bitterness. And so that it was like, open up, trust him, like he's your husband, trust him. And Clay is like at a loss of what to do. And he sees like the wife that he knew come out a few times, but then other times it's like living with a stranger. And yeah, and we watch their relationship go from a rocky kind of, with flashbacks to the really good times when they were dating, and the rocky now, and then it kind of, they talk and work through some of the issues, and it becomes really good. And then they have another challenging moment happen, and what's going to happen after that. I was connected with these characters. I really, really enjoyed it. However, because I found Callan a little bit hard to connect with at times, and some of her choices like, yeah, maybe you shouldn't do that. I didn't love the story as much as I would hope to. Now, this one does deal with some difficult subject matters, a couple that cannot have children, and how are you dealing with that? And then there is a serious injury that happens within the family. How do you deal with that? And just so there are some very difficult topics addressed in this. And you are also following a married couple. So there are no, like, it is all closed door scenes, fade to black. You just know that the couple has gone off to the bedroom. But you don't see, you don't experience any of that on page. Okay, so I gave it 4 stars. And then the last book I finished, which I said I finished December 1st, but I'm including in this, that was Cloaked in Beauty by Karen Witemeyer. This is book number 3 of the Texas Ever After series, and I had an advance reader copy of this one through NetGalley, and it releases December the 19th. I think it's the 19th. Could be the 17th, actually. It's, you know, that week of December. The week before Christmas. And so it is a historical fiction set in Texas in 1881. We are following Scarlett Radcliffe, who also goes by the name of Letty Hood, and then Philip Carmichael, who is I always say this name wrong, Pinkerton agent. Why is that so hard for me to think of? And so something has happened. When the book opens, Scarlett is 5 years old. Something has happened, and then it picks up a number of years later, and it's kind of, okay, what happened in between and what's going on now? So this is a fairy tale retelling of Little Red Riding Hood. So there is a wolf in the story, a grandmother in the story. I really saw a lot of the connections. I don't know the Little Red Riding Hood story that well, but I picked up on a lot of the connections. I did find I loved the very first couple chapters. I was very hooked as okay, I need to know. Then I felt it kind of slowed down a bit, and I didn't connect with the characters as much as I wanted to connect with them. But then that 60% mark, I was hooked and could not put the book down. I needed to know the relationship. Was romance going to happen? Do they get a happily ever after or not? There is a scene near the end which I found a little bit graphic, and it was oh my, it's a little disturbing. But I wouldn't say it was overly graphic. It was just, I was able to picture what was going on, and I was scared for the character involved at the time. But I am happy to say I really liked the way it ended, and I really enjoyed it overall. So I gave this book 4 stars. So those are the 10 plus 1 books that I read in the month of November. So as I said, Cloaked and Beauty I finished in December, so technically it counts for December books. But my favorite book of the month was, the only book I gave 5 stars, was Double Minds by Terri Blackstock. I was fully invested. Yeah. But I did have quite a few full 4 stars as well. And so overall, it was a pretty good reading month. I didn't get as much read as I kind of thought I would, especially because I had so many novellas. I thought, it'll be a good reading month. But life happened, and just being distracted. And so, yeah, just that's what happens, right? So I want to thank you for taking the time to watch this video today, and I hope you have a great day. Bye.